Hey everybody, welcome in. Thank you all for being here. My favorite time of the day is to hang out with everybody. So here we go. I thought it would be a light news day. As it turns out, it wasn't at all. So let's jump in and try impart as much as we possibly can. So let's go. That didn't work. The new thing, I used to be able to flick my slides up, but I can't seem to do that anymore. Anyhow, software has a bug. But let's jump in. Today, we're going to talk about what sometimes people call the Santa rally. It can happen in the equity markets and the crypto markets. It's when things go up in December. We were expecting an up Movember. Didn't happen. October was fantastic. November, not so much. So it just proves we're definitely going into a longer cycle. But the question is, what will happen in December? So let's find out. Math, money, freedom, and of course, this is Edutainment with the most knowledge per minute anywhere, as you guys saw yesterday. So big thank you for anybody who saw the video from yesterday. So let's jump in and talk about the first thing today. This is an article from NASDAQ, the NASDAQ Journal, and the bottom line is, according to them, will there be overall Santa Claus rally, as they call it, Santa rally, or will there be an Omicron variant crash? I don't like talking about C19 stuff, but you have to understand that it's important to know what's going on because it does rattle markets. Now, if this new variant does cause a round of another national lockdowns, investors are apparently unlikely to see a Santa Claus rally. And NASDAQ Journal said it might be better to stay on the sidelines. It's like, I beg to differ, and I'll tell you why. So first of all, we saw the stock market again took a big U-turn today as well. It did a 180 on scary earnings outlook, and the first Omicron case hit the United States. We all know it's all over. Poland, Germany, United Kingdom, Hong Kong, Israel, Africa. You know, this thing's been flying around the world for more than 2 weeks. So it's kind of funny the way they spend a week to wait to stop flights when the toothpaste left the tube a few weeks ago, but that's a separate issue. Anyway, the good news is everything that I see so far, this variant, is another nothing burger. The symptoms are a lot less than some of the previous variants. It is very contagious, though. So protect those who are fragile. Anyway, enough on that. The S&P 500, Dow Jones, etc. sank today hard, and they're worried about what this could do to the economy, what this could do to earnings of stocks, etc. But even with this whole endemic world we live in, certain stocks got clobbered today that are typically C19 plays, like Zoom. But anyway, enough of that. Let's talk about what I see for December. So these are some of the historical December numbers. As you guys know, I like to crunch numbers. So I decided to go back in history as I do and compare timeframes. So I looked at all of the December 1st of the year to the January 1st of the year performance since the beginning of time with Bitcoin. So we had 50% gains. Obviously, back in January 1, 2011, Bitcoin was very new. Trading was very small. So for it to go up 10 cents, big deal, whatever. It started becoming more mature, went up 71% in 2012. 2013, obviously bull run, went up only 5%. Interesting to see that. So it went up and down and up and down. It was a very volatile year. 2014, 2015 were typically what they call the winters, the crypto winters, down 18.7 and 16.8%. Very tight, very similar ranges, but that was kind of a painful period. Then 2016, 20%. 2017, bull run year, 32%. 2018, 23%. That was actually a bear year, so it did okay. 2019, -9, -2. And last year, we had 56.41%. The question is what will happen this year. If you take the average of all of these, it is 19.22%, but the performance is going down over time per the trend line added to the graphic. So take all that with a grain of salt. Odds are, I do believe December will be very positive and very good. And I'll talk about some of the reasons as to why I believe that's going to happen. First of all, this was posted by Lynn Alden from Priced in Gold. Basically, Bitcoin was less than a gram of gold. And here you can see it's come a long way. But the key part of this chart really to take away, everybody, is number one, gold is not an inflation hedge. And number two, Bitcoin has a long way to run. Unless, of course, this chart completely breaks down. Now, the reason I talk about gold as well is because I'm talking about inflation in a minute. So let's look at this other good news. This is an indicator from Econometrics. Big thank you to Sanjay for sending this in. And this chart's very interesting. It's a breakdown of by cohort of the amount of coins that different cohorts are holding. So the dark blue spots are when whales and fish. Now, whales are people with over 100 Bitcoins or over 1,000 Bitcoins, depending on how you look at it. Fish are people kind of under 10 Bitcoin, typically. But whales and fish, with the dark blue spots, are when they sell. The light blue is when the whales and the fish buy. The yellow is when the whales and the fish sell, when the whales buy and the fish sell. And the red is where the whales and the fish buy. Now, again, the only thing you need to take away from this chart is look at the red sequences. So basically, in the past, when we had these beginning of red, both whales and fish buying at the same time, it's called an accumulation phase. Everybody's buying. And this happened when we went from 29K to 50K during the summer. And recently, again, when we went from 42K to 58K. So basically, we only have an N of 1. It's the first day it's actually happened. We have our first red dot. So basically, the whales and the fish are accumulating. So odds are we are on for another run. Extremely good news. Let's see what else we got. This is from JustinFX. These two lines here, you can see the support line. That's the bottom line extending out to the former resistance of about 32,500. And the former resistance line above that, the lower channel. Then you have the upper channel, the ascending channel. And it's quite beautiful when you look at how it's painted. The new ascending channel with resistance initially up at 12,000. And now, if you look at the way this whole thing is pointing, it could go up. It's only a matter of time before we break out above 73K. It's basically what this chart says. And we'll see if this holds true. But again, the chart is looking extremely bullish. And I would have painted one myself, only I couldn't find one as pretty as that. So I decided, why not take it? In other news as well, if anybody saw my video from yesterday with Raoul Pal, he spoke about a ton of money coming in January, February, March. He emphasized that twice. A ton of money is coming in. He advises hedge funds and sovereigns on how to invest. So he knows, he's got a finger on the pulse of what's happening. In addition to that, Fidelity launched a spot Bitcoin ETF in Canada. It's already listed here. It's not live yet, but it's coming. Now, the thing about this is, Fidelity is the biggest asset manager to date with a Bitcoin ETF and one of the biggest asset managers in the world. They have over 4 trillion in assets. And just imagine the type of money that they are going to attract from all those people in Canada to service the customers' demands. Think of the retirement funds that they manage for Canadians and others. But what also happened, which is kind of funny too, is Grayscale saw this, and the Grayscale attorneys at Davis Polk sent a letter to the SEC arguing the approval of a Bitcoin futures-based ETF, but not a Bitcoin spot-based ETF like GBTC, is arbitrary and capricious, and therefore in violation of the Administrative Procedure Act, the APA, which I never heard of before. But this is super interesting. While Grayscale's Bitcoin spot ETF application is pending, the crypto assets attorneys say there's no basis for the position that investing in the derivatives market for an asset is acceptable for investors, while investing in the asset itself is not. It's such a simple sentence when you think about it. Their position, yes, putting the futures ETF before the spot ETF is kind of crazy. I understand from a risk management perspective, the risk management tool needs to be in place before you can attract the other investors, but we'll see. This is a fair point, and I wonder what will happen. Speaking of the guy who's on the receiving end of this letter, this guy, Gary Gensler. Now, he made a statement today, which is kind of interesting. He runs the SEC. He said, Bitcoin is a competitor to the US banking system and its worldwide consensus. And the SEC chairman said they need to manage it and manage the risk, etc. So, I mean, sometimes they state the most obvious things, and then the media grabs hold of it. It's like, oh my God, Bitcoin's going to impact the banking industry. It's like, okay, enough of that. So let's talk about staking, what's going on in the staking world. Switching gears briefly. This whole board has completely shuffled. So for the longest time, the number one staked platform ever was Cardano. The Cardano army is strong and loyal and dedicated. But not only did Cardano tumble from the number one spot of staking, but also, per this chart, the number two spot as well. So I'm not too sure exactly how true that is. I don't think Ethereum staked is that much. I thought it was more about 30%. But anyway, the truth is, though, there is more Solana staked as a percentage basis than Cardano, which is kind of staggering. And I think this is based on the total amount staked and not the percentage staked. But either way, the total amount and the percentage, Solana beats Cardano hands down. So that was an interesting situation. And maybe people are beginning to unstake their Cardano to sell it because they're just frustrated and tired of hanging on for so long. But again, it's Cardano's rock bottom now. I don't think there's any more downside, like I said before. So we'll see. And it always lags the rest of the market. Let's talk a little bit about ETH 2.0. And again, per my video, there was so many nuggets in my interview yesterday with Raoul Pal. This is one of the pieces that we took away. I've always been a big fan of the 0.08 ETH to Bitcoin ratio. This came out from Quelle Twitter. He said it's only a matter of time before ETH breaks out of the current range. We saw that yesterday. It's fell just below that 0.08 signified in the chart here, the red bottom arrow pointing to where it is right now. And it's funny, Quelle mentioned the 0.16 ratio. And that is interesting because that's exactly the number that Raoul Pal mentioned. And that is exactly the number that would bring about a Bitcoin flippening if it were to happen. If Ethereum were to go to this ratio, that means it's flipped Bitcoin. So either way, it is the feeling and the consensus is that it's going to go up real fast. And that's in line with Raoul Pal's expectations for Ethereum to hit 20,000. We'll talk more about that in a second too. This is another interesting piece here. This is a stunning development. This is the amount of tokens tied up with Dapps running on the ETH platform. You can see here that Axie is number one. Clear, far and away the biggest user. DYDX number two, and OpenSea number three. Now, the key thing here is one of the takeaways from yesterday's interview as well. When I asked Raoul Pal, I said, what do you think is going to be bigger? DeFi, which is like a $450 trillion total addressable market, or Metaverse? And he said Metaverse. And that stunned me. So I started digging into some stuff. And I saw this. So if you look at this, and you look at just the top three players, two of them are Metaverse. So he might be right. So that stunned me. I couldn't imagine it growing so big so fast, but here we are. Now, switching gears, talking about SCPs real quick. These are the smart contract platforms on the move. In fact, just when I started the stream, guess what started to pump? Solana. It was at 227 when I started. Now it's at 230.4, and it seems to be outperforming the rest of the market. Polygon is winning, and Algorand is number two. So that is kind of where we start. And let's talk about why Polygon is so strong. So Polygon had a whole bunch of good press. I've been talking about MATIC being one of the most undervalued chains out there because of all the stuff that they process, all of the transactions, all of the TVL, all of the ecosystem growth, you name it. Well, they just got an ETP at iShares, which is a special fund where that fund will be forced to buy MATIC as they go forward, as it grows. So that's going to bring a lot more cash to the Polygon platform. In addition, but the ecosystem has also been built out very rapidly. So it's nothing but goodness. And speaking of L2s, touching on a little bit of ZK-rollup news, LOOPRING. You guys have asked me to look at LOOPRING for the longest time, and I'm digging into it. There's a couple of things I really like about it. Still trying to figure out exactly how to value it, but really it's getting my attention right now. Hopefully I'm not too late to the party. My stable is full, so I need to kick something out of the stable to make room for LOOPRING, but it's looking very, very attractive. Have not bought yet. But according to Delphi Digital, since October, the trading activities and the volume in LOOPRING, the ETH L2 exchange, have shown a huge upward trend and accumulation trading volume exceeding 3 billion out of nowhere. And the LRC, which is the token ticker, has risen 10x since October. So it's one of those that's on fire. And ZK rollups are going to become very, very important part of the Ethereum ecosystem as we go forward. And obviously, trades on LOOPRING are gas-free, apparently, which is one of the things I'm grappling with, which helped L2 gain traction, of course, surpassing this volume recently. And LOOPRING recently also deployed a thing called a counterfactual wallet, which enables a gas-free experience on LOOPRING without paying any wallet deployment costs on L1s. So we're going to track this carefully and see exactly what else we can find out, but it seems to be a super fascinating space. And congrats to all those who got into LOOPRING early. So speaking of transactions, this is from Coin98. And no need to complain. I know there's different ways of measuring what transactions are, and there's wash sales with Tron, etc. And some of the transactions on Solana are kind of messages, voting, etc. But putting all that aside, either way, the big takeaway here is what I found very interesting is MATIC transactions are 1.09 billion versus ETH 1.33 billion. So MATIC is nearly doing as many transactions as Ethereum, which is huge. Binance Smart Chain is number 3, obviously because of all the activities they have. And the heavyweight champion is 20 times larger than everybody else. I don't need to mention the name of who they are. But speaking of who they are, this is the growth of the Solana ecosystem. Just like the MATIC ecosystem, it is exploding. You can hardly even see the amount of players here. It's over 500 apps are running now on Solana. And there's new ones being added every week, 10, 15, 20, every single week. And that's a big sign of the value of the chain as we go forward. The other thing that we can see tied to that is we always follow the money and we follow the developers, especially for growing chains. This chart is a bit of a one-dimensional view, as there are other factors which are not included in this, but it's still an incredible chart displaying the real astronomical adoption growth of Solana in this area. And I've included the source here, not shilling Solana. I don't know her, but the point is Solana is clearly number 1. It has just eclipsed Ethereum in the number of developers and is far and away the biggest, most active platform now for developers. Again, developers like to follow the money, and developers like to commit their resources like they're investing in a chain, and they pick the one that's where the most action is at, and that's where they are right now. So let's look at the Solana chart real quick. It's just exploded. So here, per the Solana chart, we have this channel. We have the Solana support, the pattern support, the bottom line there at the top, just like the previous chart I showed. And then we have the pattern resistance. Per this chart, this channel, we are midway in that channel now, which tells me we're going to $260 real soon. And the other cool thing yesterday was I asked Raoul Pal. I asked him, if Solana is the Ethereum of this bull run, what is your max price? And he agreed with mine of $2,000. 2,000 is extremely moon boyish to say that, but he did say that and ratify that yesterday, so that was an interesting number. Imagine Solana 2 days ago is $183. Imagine it goes to $2,000 in a couple of months. That would be staggering. Anyway, we'll watch the chart very carefully. Now let's talk about some other players. Avalanche. They came out with their first SnowDog MemeCoin. Of course, it's another dog MemeCoin. I thought this dog is very beautiful in the snow. It's a beautiful picture. But what's kind of interesting is the insiders front run a token designed to avoid front running. And it shows you we are still in the Wild West, and there's still a lot of risk out there, everybody. So be careful what you invest in. Now, the SnowDog DAO was a decentralized reserved meme coin based on Avalanche, and it failed spectacularly after 8 days. The insiders are saying, well, it's just kind of like a game theory test, so we'll see what happens. The point is, be careful with your money, everybody. Be careful what you're risking. Now, in other Cardano news as well, Cardano versus ETH. Charles is putting his boxing gloves on, and he's making more waves of late, despite the big price pullback down to $1.60 or so from the high of $3. Charles thinks competitors and critics of Cardano are afraid because Cardano is doing so well. He thinks the competitors like Ethereum are terrified of their technology, and he believes that they have a technology that doesn't need to reinvent itself to survive. He was jabbing at ETH 2.0. And the argument may be taken as a hit against the Ethereum network to propel ETH 2.0 and keep up with fast evolving landscape in the blockchain industry. Now, my feeling is real simple. I think Charles is focusing on the wrong target. He should no longer be worried about Ethereum. He should be worried about the murderer's row of L1s that are out there. That's the concern he should have. He's focusing on the wrong target right now if he's developing and attacking Ethereum. So let's see. Now, another good news. I got picked up yesterday. Again, so many golden nuggets in that interview. It was fantastic. A couple of them took me aback. A couple of them stumped Raoul for the first time, which is awesome. But we'll see. But some of the big takeaways from this interview, a whole bunch. One was obviously we ratified that 82% of his portfolio is Ethereum right now, which includes options. He also thinks that smart contract platforms like Solana and Terra Luna will outperform Ethereum this cycle. And he predicts a year-end target of at least $10,000 to $15,000 for Ethereum and at least $20,000 by March. Could be $40,000 by summer. We'll see. And also the stuff I mentioned before, the Sol to $2,000 prediction is in there too. So super interesting interview. Big thank you to the king of the metaverse, Raoul Pal, and king of Ethereum, the ETH Maxi, for that interview. It was fantastic. Speaking of the metaverse, FTX NFTs are adding support for Ethereum NFTs today after launching with Solana NFTs in October. So you'll be able to trade different NFTs from different platforms. And this is super exciting. This is the beginning of the whole cross-chain world that we've been talking about as well. And speaking of metaverse and real estate and how big this thing is, according to Grayscale, the metaverse could generate $1 trillion in annual revenue just from virtual property, virtual real estate. Think of a piece of land in the metaverse. This is crazy. And some of the things that have happened recently is Axie Infinity recently sold something for 2.3 million, I think. Sandbox sold something for 4.3 million. And remember, these are all sold in Ethereum values. So imagine you have Ethereum at $5,000 and Ethereum goes to $10,000. These sales become 10 million really quickly. Or the corollary is also true. If Ethereum goes to $100, then these things get a lot cheaper. So remember, the currency that they're using to buy these properties is tied to the price action of Ethereum, which is also very volatile. So think about that. So that's why I think it's a great idea to give people a gift of crypto for Christmas. You know, buy it now, give it to them in a month. It could be worth twice the amount. Anyway, speaking of other stuff, inflation. This is deflation. And I love this. This is from Blockworks. They posted it. And it is a report I think it was from Cryptomaniacs. It talked about how an iPhone 4, when it launched, was worth 3,000 Bitcoin. Now, an iPhone 13, like 9 generations later, is only worth 0.02 Bitcoin. So I talk a lot about inflation, but this is deflation. But remember, the price of the iPhone has gotten more and more expensive over time in dollars, but a hell of a lot cheaper in Bitcoin. So what do you have in your pocket? That's the question. Now, speaking of inflation, this is so freaking funny. I have to laugh. You know, I step out for a second. I've been banging the table on inflation since January 2021. And the Fed, etc., and Janet Yellen and others talk about transitory inflation. And here they said, we're going to retire the word transitory. Take it outside and just shoot it. We're not going to use that anymore. They don't like that word. They hate being questioned. Now, he's a good guy. No hate, no disrespect. He's got a very hard job. But his job as a government official is to sow comfort with the world and make them feel less freaked out. So I don't blame him for saying, oh, it's only going to be temporary. It's only going to be 1% or 2% or whatever. So, you know, it's just us irresponsible folks on YouTube shouting from the hilltop since January that inflation is a serious problem. Now they realize it. Well done. A year later. Good job. So another illustration of inflation is the Case-Shiller Index. This is a US property index. And they just came out with their September report today. And this was kind of staggering. If you look at this index, the property index was 212 in December 2020. Today, it's 271.2. That is a 28% increase in property prices since December 2020. That is 10 months, 28%. And as Michael Saylor says, it's the road to serfdom. The only way you can get out of this is have hard assets. Hard assets doesn't mean you have to own real estate, but make sure you have a solid hedge like Bitcoin to protect yourself. And I feel bad for those people that are looking to get on the real estate ladder, as they say, and jump in with these types of prices. It's staggering. Anyway, with that, I'm going to open up to some Q&A. Hope you guys like the content. Hit the like if you do. And let's switch gears. And switch cameras too. And check on the world. I have 4 thumbs downs. I got 4 haters in the audience. That's great. Let me go. I'm not supposed to say that. Let me see. I should have some questions popping up. Here we are. Oh, a ton of them. Luke Broyles, number 1 again. What is the future incentive to hold Solana when fees are so cheap? It's purely a store of value, Metcalfe's law play, or will there be a fee demand? So you have to understand it's all about global domination. Think of a store selling stuff at a low price, but to scale. When you look at the number of transactions that the Solana ecosystem is running, the 40 billion versus the 1.3 billion on Ethereum, they're doing 40x more, but they're more than 100x cheaper, but they can make it up in volume. Sounds like a cliche, but that's the idea. But the idea is to be the number 1 blockchain. If you have things like stock markets running on Solana, if you have messaging systems running on a Solana, NFT marketplaces, virtual world games, the transaction volume will get so immense. That's where they make the money. So it sounds like there used to be an old joke back in the 90s with the .com boom. You know, you sell a product at a loss, but you can make it up in volume. But this time you can make it up in volume. So hope that answers this question. Jay Simmons, curious, what are your daily reads? Wow. So I have a stack of RSS feeds that I set up by token, by stock, market, and all sorts of news feeds. I read Bloomberg, Wall Street Journal, all the crypto rags, and I have RSS feeds on RSS feeds as well, where I see everything. But I don't listen to YouTube for my news. I do it the old school way. I read a lot. I probably read 300 to 500 articles a day at least. And that's the sources of my information. And then for these types of videos, I try weave together a story, picking the best pieces that are most relevant for the market today. But you can't cover everything. There's simply so much material out there. I read a lot, but that's why I'm armed to answer any type of question. So if somebody throws a Tesla question at me or a SpaceX question, I'll know the answer as well. So I don't necessarily cover everything, but I have it all in here somewhere. Cryptolicious. Will you take some time for Christmas? We will forgive you. Probably not. Maybe Christmas Day, but just, sometimes I still read every day. I've got to stay on top of the markets because I have my own portfolios to manage and I love to share what I see. So I might be a little more casual. I might be doing things from the road. Who knows? But yeah, I'll be in touch with you guys every day, barring any unforeseen circumstances. But we'll see. But there's not much. You can't fly anywhere right now or go to hotels, so you're kind of stuck. So we'll see. Thank you, Cryptolicious. Robert Decline, your thoughts on PYR and the metaverse? Entered 300 with the actual metaverse play, has decent tokenomics and a very cool looking game. So I'm looking at a whole bunch of those plays and I'm trying to build a quant model around them based on everything else, but they're so hard to value. And everything in the metaverse right now is very, very overvalued. So I'm trying to estimate, if you look at like Decentraland and Gala and all these, I'm trying to look at tokenomics, which are all very inflationary. I'm trying to estimate users, cost per user, user growth, value of the network, and it's extremely difficult. And that's why I'm stalling, because I don't want to come out and just say, yeah, this is great, it's going to 10x. That's not my style. I need to have absolute conviction that a game is better than something I already have in my stable. And if I do get behind it, odds are some people out there might jump in as well. So I need to make the right decision. And this stage of the market also is very hairy and the valuations are crazy. But Robin, I will definitely check PYR and add it to my list of plays to look at. And I'm glad I just made it into the top 300. JG, What are your thoughts on purpose Bitcoin yield ETF with covered call strategy? Yeah, you can do that for sure. I'm actually I'm doing a couple of tests right now with the BTO one myself as a covered call play. And I'm also looking at doing things like selling calls, buying GBTC, and just playing with numbers, just with small amounts of money to see exactly what the optimal solution is. There is a huge contango effect on the BTO right now, which isn't very good. I was actually going to do a post on that today. So just be careful, but you can actually take advantage of that contango effect. The problem is we're at this point in time with the market where we could wake up one morning and Bitcoin could just explode. We know the money's coming in. It may not be here for another 4 weeks, but it's coming. January will be big shopping time, and I hope some of the clever money will buy before year end. So I'm still very, very bullish for December. Copycat. Square versus PayPal for leaps and with this current downtrend. I prefer Square every day of the week. In fact, I own PayPal and Square. I've got underlying positions. I'm short currently PayPal. I've never shorted Square, but I'm in Square and PayPal at very low cost basis. That's why I'm still kind of holding. But I think Square with Jack Dorsey's full-time commitment now, he is a Bitcoin maxi. He has great visions for all sorts of things from mining to all sorts of Bitcoin applications on the network. So I think he'll be building some fantastic layer 2s on top of Bitcoin as well as he goes forward. So Square is the long-term hold for me. I would recommend, not financial advice, of course. MS, thoughts on DOT? Time to exit DOT. DOT has been a super disappointment. I thought parachain auctions would make it explode, and it hasn't. So I was hoping for $90, $98 to get out of Polkadot, and it hasn't actually gotten there. Let's pull up the chart real quick and see exactly if there's any action. Oh, it's just really sucking wind. For a while there, I thought when it hit 56, I thought it was on its way. I never thought we'd go back to 36 again. Not so fast anyway. So I think Polkadot sucks. Sometimes a lot of hype up to these auctions and then a lot of fizzle at the end. But you don't hear a lot about Polkadot anymore. The one thing I do have, though, is a lot of faith in Gavin Wood. I think he can pull a rabbit out of the hat. I just don't know where he is right now. He was talking a very bullish game back in September. And since then, he's been a little bit quiet. So I'm still holding. I haven't sold yet, but I'm getting close. I think probably next time it hits 56 or $60, I'm going to bounce myself. Short Pants Romance. Any chance of getting the video on how to trade in and out of iTrust Capital account? Would love to see that. I don't know. I've never used iTrust Capital, but I can look into it. I know they want to talk. I just have never done anything with them yet. So not sure I can help you there. I'm sorry about that. Trade in and out of night. Does that mean transferring your existing crypto in versus out, or trading within the account? I'm not sure. But I do have to do a video on IRAs and retirement for crypto. But I don't want to do something that's so US specific or be seen as pushing a platform that I don't use myself. So I'm a very big believer in dog fooding too. I use Voyager. I like it. I use Celsius. I like it. Despite all the stuff out there right now too. So Future Millionaire, assuming we go into a bear market, typically how long are bear markets? Months, years, etc. So historically, Future Millionaire, bear markets were over 2 years in duration. But I think we're in a very different cycle right now. Again, to steal a phrase from Raoul Pal yesterday, he describes it as an upward moving jagged edge. There will be volatility, but the overall trend is up. Remember, like you take things like Bitcoin, the money flow is coming in. Everybody knows this is a 100x industry. It's going to 100x over the next 9 years. That's a foregone conclusion in many people's minds. There will be volatility on the way up, but we will not have the retracements. And there will not be 2 years of bear market like we had before. I'm convinced of that. So the market's going to run long. We might have a lot of fervor and a blow off top type of thing in Q1, Q2 next year. It'll retrace aggressively and then it'll go right back up again. That's what I see happening. So I hope that helps. But, we can't look at the past anymore. It doesn't work. It's not repeating. Future Millionaire, good question. Caligula, Link, Uni, still a hold. 950 Tesla soon. Shout out to Hans. Hey, Hans. Link, Uni, they are other ones. So things like Aave, Uniswap have really been suffered because they've also faced what I call the murderer's row of competition. Just so much competition right now. And that's why it's so critical to be in an infrastructure play like a layer one that's dominating the world. That's why I've always been so bullish all year on Solana, because it is the alpha out there. Chainlink, I still have confidence in. I think it's going to pop at some stage. Uniswap and Aave, even though you didn't mention Aave, I'm a little worried about that. Chainlink is just so weak. When you look at the strength of Ethereum, like historically, Chainlink and Ethereum used to be tied at the hip. Now they're just not anymore. It's very bizarre. Again, like MATIC, I see a lot of untapped value in Chainlink. They're just not moving yet. Now, in fairness, Chainlink is a very good hedge to have for a so-called bear market, if there is one, because it always does very well. People begin to see the value and everything else goes to hell. So it could be definitely one to hold. Uniswap, I'm getting close to getting out of Uniswap probably in Aave. And again, remember everybody, I'm 97.5% Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Solana. The rest are kind of crumbs, and I'm going to start edging out of them real soon. And I'll let you guys know as well. 950 Tesla. I'm hoping for some weakness. There was a bit of weakness there today. Elon Musk is said to be selling more Tesla shares through the end of this year. I think his final sale might be the 26th of December or something. So there'll be a time to snipe. Hopefully there'll be a little bit of alarming news regarding the Omi. I'm going to call it OMI, which is the new variant. I don't want to say out names in case I get pulled off the interwebs. So that's kind of where I am right now. Hold tight. It's beginning to get less volatile. Still some more selling pressure. But if there is a notification of a 5-1 stock split, I'm immediately going to cover my shorts, because that's going to be rocket booster time. So watch that. Now, there's also a little bit of SpaceX news. SpaceX is having some problems, which means Elon Musk is having some problems. So it's going to take us focus away from Tesla, which is a concern. So that could actually bring down a buying opportunity for Tesla. So hang tight on that one, everybody. That's just what I see right now. And a big thank you for a donation as well. Jay Simmons, GT350, Fast Timmy, Tunas on Toast, Bat Pangolin. I love that name. I'm going to call you Omi Bat Pangolin. Playing with Pastels, Bill Gross, Alan Watts, Rustic Izakaya, St. Jude Needs Us, Jeff Hammer, Cookie Matster, Brett Buckland, Bad Kitty in DC, Paul, Josh B, and Hien Win. Thank you so much, everybody. We got all that done in 38 minutes. Fantastic. See you guys tomorrow. Have a good night.